I'm going to do is walk you guys through how to make angled planks where the gap between the planks is aligned in the right way with the surface of the plank. I've done a couple of sets for 45-degree planks and a steeper one. So this is like a 1-to-1 angles, the 45s, and 2-to-1 is the one on the left. It's like 63 degrees or something like that. I even made myself a handy triangle angle calculator thingy because I was talking about it with someone the other day and I was using degrees instead of the ratio of angles on the triangle. So have nice foods, Metallical.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what we're going to work on is a 1-to-3 angle because I don't have a set for those yet. So when people talk about that angle ratio, what they're talking about is, or the slope ratio, what they're talking about is the distance, the number of voxels that one edge of the angle travels as opposed to the other edge. So to get an angle that is about as steep as this triangle that I have on the ground here, you go over 1 this direction for each 3 that you go up. And you can count that with the little guide thing on the left. But that's kind of an explanation of what people are talking about when they're talking about those angles. And so we'll be working on a 1-to-3 ratio sort of angle on this one.
Come back. Welcome back.
Welcome back. I've started the tutorial, so we can go back to the trees when we're done.
Alright.
So there's a few things that you'll need to do this sort of cutting. In order to get a fairly clean front end and back end, we're going to use a line tool cut. And then to get this sort of rough look between the planks, which what I have here isn't that great, but what we're going to make will be a little bit better, we're going to make our own stone cutter. So to make our cutter, there are a variety of stone cutting boards out there. There's the Colossus LaForge board. There's this one that I don't remember where I got it from. I got it from somewhere. And then there's this one that I got off of Ginsan's huge build board yesterday. This is, if you guys have been to his Hollis swap claim, he has this board that's like a claim wide and a claim tall or something like that, and it has all of his pieces that he uses on a regular basis for building. And this is in the lower left corner of that, if I recall correctly. And in this set I took the fattest angle, or the fattest piece, and I found one that has that 1-to-3 ratio. So if I float so I can get my face up there so you can see what I'm doing. If I select this, you'll be able to see that for each, start with this one. For each 3 that it goes this direction, it goes only 1 this direction. It goes 3 left and right, goes 1 up and down. If I rotate that, then it will be the same in the other direction. So if I copy this out, and rotate it that direction, we'll have something that goes, start here, goes 3 up, and only 1 across. So Zek says, will the process work with Holocean entrance ramps just as the appropriate angle? Yes. Yeah, it should. I haven't tried making a Holocean entrance ramp, but I believe this will work for that as well. So I took this piece out and came over here, and I actually am going to skip a few steps in here, but not skipping steps yet. So this is that same piece. I just left it over here for reference. And oops, too close to that one. And I'm just going to adjust this and paste it on top of itself a few times. This particular one I really like because it works well. The bottom voxel and the top voxel in this are in the same what you see is in the same position, so it's easy to overlap with itself. So if you take this and repeat it a few times, you just end up with a longer version of that angle. Then the next step is to find a way to make it lumpy. That's an important piece in this because it takes it from looking like a really clean cut board to looking more rustic. So to do that, I'm using Naya Chris's Ring Fixer set, which is this set of voxels right here. They are made for, she uses them when she's making rings to push voxels back into place so that they line up nicely. The way that I saw her use this when I asked for a copy of it is she had this and she had a circle she was trying to fix, and she had just taken this and lined it up so that the point of each one of these fixer voxels was up against the piece she was trying to fix, so she was pushing them back in place. I'm going to do something a little bit different with it. I marked this voxel here because it's the one that I played with first. And I'm going to bring this over to my angle cutter and tweak mode, place it there. And you can see that this floats just a little bit above this piece. If I delete mode to put it there, or to delete that space, you'll see that it brings both the white voxel and the tan voxel up. I don't want both of those adjusted, I just want the tan one adjusted, so I copied it and pasting it back in that same spot. Just want to make sure it's in there well. Yep. And that made it so that it bulged up just a little bit. So without that bulge and then with the bulge. And I've done that with a few different adjustment tools. I used this brown one that I have over there as well, which adjusts a little bit differently, but it does make it a little bit fatter. If I use this one, I'm just repeating the same process to fatten it up. And by using different things around that same area, so you're not fattening it up too much. That's a good one, Ogre Snot. You don't want to fatten it up too much because you don't want it to look super lumpy, but you do want it to be a little bit lumpy. So now I'm going to move over to this one, which I've already made pretty lumpy. Get rid of this piece, we don't need that anymore. So I've already made this one pretty lumpy. I'm going to add just a little bit more, I think right in this area, with that one that I just copied. And yeah, I think I like that placement, so delete. Maybe not. Go back 2 more. That's actually too much. That's what I want to avoid because then it looks really chunky. So I'll go back to that spot. I'm glad I have comic relief. So that's the type of adjustment that I've done along here. I used several different angles. I actually did some adjusting on the bottom as well. You can see the bottom bulges out a little bit as well. Any questions before I move on to the next piece? So next I'm going to take that angle and duplicate it. I'm just going to copy it across, but I want some variety in there. They aren't available for copying right now. Actually, take that back. The ones that I made over in this corner, these are all available for copying. The ones that I've been using to work with, I don't have available for copying, but I'll put them on that same claim because they are all things that are available on other people's claims. So yeah, I'll take the boards that I've been working with to make these and make them available as well. And if you don't want to go through making this style of plank yourself and want to use a copy of mine, that's absolutely okay. Come grab a copy of them. Probably tomorrow or Wednesday I'll put a board out for this angle. I haven't made this one before, so I don't have it out there yet. So what I just did is I had my piece that I copied from over there, the lumpy piece. I pasted it next to each other a few times, and I'm going to bring this back down to line up with the other pieces. Yep. Nope, that's not the right spot. And now we just need to add some variety to the lumpiness. So I need to get this lined up correctly again. Ah, that must be already mirrored. Yeah, okay. So let me copy this again, just so I'm not being confusing. So this is the piece that I made lumpy. And I'm just going to paste a couple more on here. So this is all duplicated the same piece. Now to add some variety, you can do a couple of things. I'm going to mirror this vertically and then horizontally lengthwise, so it's mirroring this direction. And then paste it in there again. You'll see that it changes the angles of the lumps a little bit. You'll see we'll have a little bit more lumpiness on the bottom because that pulled it out a little bit. And I'll duplicate that across a bit. You can also adjust horizontally and just make sure that it lines up correctly so that we don't see much yellow poking out of our lumpy surface, and then move it over. And if you don't see any craziness happening after you paste it in place, it'll be good. So I'm going to do that again. Then I'll show you what I mean by craziness. If I do this again, I'm going to mirror both ways again and adjust back this way. So that's lined up perfectly. If I adjust it one more when I paste, you get some naughty voxels and we don't like that. So slide that back over. And that gives a bit of variety in how the lumps line up. So for sake of speediness, I'm going to copy the middle part of this so I have just the part that doesn't have holes. And yeah, Zach, I feel the same way. That's why when people were telling me, you know, you can just use Ginsan stone walls or cool stone walls, I was like, yeah, but I would rather build them myself if I can. I don't mind people helping when I'm stuck. I really don't mind that, as long as I get to learn from them in the process. But I prefer to know how to do everything that's on my claim. So what I'm doing is I'm just copying and mirroring that piece around to make it fatter, to make my final cutter a bit wider. I'm going to need to take a break after this tutorial and feed my cats because I'm late. And one more time. Oops, that way and that way. And then that way and that way. There. Okay, so this should be wide enough to cut with. So this is going to be our cutting piece. I'm going to leave this sitting here just for reference and copy the whole thing and paste it on the side again. And I'm going to paint it all white this time. I'll explain why that's important in a little bit. First I'm going to read chat and make sure I haven't missed anything. Eleven, I think you need a shirt that says I'm with Stupid and you can wear it when you're streaming.
Yay!
Hey, I woke up Peanut Gallery. Okay, so now that I have this all painted white, one moment.
Her cat is angry. Wants to get in the closet. It's like, I want to go in the closet. It's closet time.
No, closet time doesn't happen until after they've been fed, and I'm a little late feeding them. But it won't take much longer before I'm done with this, and then I'll go feed them.
Closet time.
Peanut Gallery's being quiet because we figure you might want to highlight this later or edit it and YouTube it or something.
That's okay. My YouTube channel's set to mature also. You can use the same sort of humor now that you usually do.
Oh.
But thank you for not interrupting too much.
Yeah, we
That's
didn't wanna,
totally not true. I'm still eating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a 4-pound tub of loaded baked potato salad, and I'm about halfway through it.
Dude, save some of that
so-
for tomorrow.
No.
Okay, so I painted this all one color. The reason I did that is because when you're using the line tool to cut things, or you're using voxels to cut other... I'm not sure if that's true on voxels, that they're cutting other voxels. But the color or the texture that you use on things matters to the way that voxels interact with each other. If I used the line tool to cut this, then it would try to keep the same pattern there even though it gave me an angled cut. So I've always assumed that if I take my cutter and use it all one color when I'm cutting, it'll give me a cleaner cut. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but I like that assumption. It makes things easier to work with, so I'm going to keep using it. What was that?
Assumption's always the best thing.
Yeah. Well, actually, Zach, I can show you real quick by going like, let's see. Let me take this corner, and I'm going to put a copy of it right with this corner. And then I'll do a line tool cut on both of them, and then we'll do some painting so you can see the difference. This is something I figured out when I was working on the talkish stuff. I just wasn't really sure how to articulate what I was seeing until Draco also figured it out and showed everyone. I was like, oh yeah, that's why it's working that way. That totally makes sense. Okay. So I'm doing an angled cut so you can see how it interacts with each of the voxels. And actually, I'm going to pull this out further. And to the side a little more. Okay. So you can see here that we have the white and tan pieces. When I do the cut, those should stay... Oh, hey, look, I did a bad cut. Wrong directions or something. Right, okay. The alignment of the paddles on the line tool matter to the way that it works. So rather than having the paddles facing inward when you're doing a cut, you actually need to have them facing outward. So I'm going to line it up on this and then line it up on the other side. And the other thing, since I'm on this now, the other thing that matters when you're doing a line tool cut is making sure that it is aligned in at least one direction so that you have the green. So I'm going to line this up in both directions. When it's green, it's aligned in one direction. When it's bright green, it's aligned completely. So this is just a straight line. So now if I tweak it to the side... Okay, so we have the same sort of thing happening here where we have tan, white, tan, and a little corner of white. I'm not sure if that little corner of white will stay or not, but this little piece of white will. And if I cut... Okay, so this came out a little bit lumpy because it's really thin, but this white piece here stayed. Okay, that's the piece I'm going to care about. So this piece here, if I select this and pull it up, should be tan on that piece as well. Oh, I didn't line these up properly. Well, if I'd lined them up properly, what you would see is that the voxel orientation here doesn't stay the same as it is here. It stretches things out differently. So it's something to play with. You'll be able to see how that works with a little bit of playing. And actually, guys, I am going to take a break for a couple minutes and go feed the cats so that they stop revolting. I'll be right back.
They sound like they're revolting.
They are angry.
Sounds like they're gonna feed themselves.
Yeah,
Each other.
it sound like
They're
they're
gonna,
each
they're gonna
other.
feed themselves
Sacrifice.
Mirren. They're gonna be like, we're gonna eat Mirren.
Oh, bitch, we're gonna eat her. Revolt.
Sacrifice.
I'm
Bow
gonna
to the
eat.
Dark Lord of the feline species.
I'm going to get you, Gadget.
Sound like Claw from Gadget.
Oh yeah.
I'll get you, Gadget.
Is that the
Yep.
second claw?
There you go.
That's the movie Claw.
Yes, the movie claw.
The one straight to VHS. Nobody ever watched it. Yes, a
Yep.
VHS. That's how
Yeah, the
long
second
ago
one
it was.
was the crappy version.
Yep.
Of course it was.
It always is,
Saying something
man.
compared to the first one. Let's be honest.
First one's better. Oh god, I barely remember the first one. Oh man, it's been so long.
How can you not remember Matthew Broderick's last Hollywood role? Come on.
I know. Was? Fuck.
That's not true. It's not. It wasn't his last role.
Oh.
I think actually the producers was.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did Godzilla after Inspector Gadget.
Was
also.
was he in Godzilla? I never watched it.
Yeah, he was in Godzilla as the not cameraman guy. Who was the cameraman again?
He was the he played the scientist that studied worms.
Yes.
The cameraman. Oh man, I can't think of his name.
I want to say Ethan Hawke, but I know that's not right.
Ethan Hawke's like
No.
the new Kevin Bacon. He's in everything.
It's not Ethan Hawke. It's crap. He's a comedian.
Oh,
I remember
narrows
his
it down.
face. Oh man. I'm gonna IMDb Google that sucker. Hank Azaria. That's his name.
Oh, Hank Azaria. Yeah, it's a big difference from Ethan Hawke to Hank Azaria.
Yeah, it is.
Hey, now my mic actually unmuted. Woo, I'm back. So Zeka was saying, if you want, I can show you what I was talking about with the line tool cut sometime, but I'm going to move on with the rest of the tutorial now. So we made
Cats
this.
didn't hang each other, did they?
No, I got to them in time.
Alright.
So we made this weird angled lumpy sheet that we're going to use as a cutter. And over here I've set up a cutting jig. It's kind of complicated to look at it at first. This is based off of actually what Tinma made when he was helping me make my logs over there. But the way I have this set up, let me take a minute to walk it through. If you're doing a 1-to-1 cut, you would use this piece with the 1 on it, and you would line, you do 2 cuts. And this blue line corresponds to the blue line on this paddle. And I'll explain how to use those lines as we get a little further in. If you're doing a 2-to-1 cut, then you would use the purple line at the 2 and align it with the purple line here. And actually, there's one correction I forgot to make to this. So if you're doing a 3-to-1 cut, you also use a purple line, but you use the other purple line. That one. And so I can quickly explain how this works. When you're doing a 1-to-1 cut, that 1-to-1 ratio is the length of the 2 sides of the triangle that you're essentially cutting, because even though you're just using a line tool, you're making a triangle. When you're doing a 1-to-1 cut, you want to make sure that the lengths of those sides of the triangle end up being exactly the same. I'm not going to use the voxel space that the paddles are in, because that's really not going to be part of the cut. So I'm going to bring my selection tool up, and you can see that it's 17 across and 17 up. So this line is a 1-to-1 dimension. When we go and actually, let me back that up a little bit. The way that I use this in reality would be the 16 by 16. There's 2 different cuts required for making the angled planks. You do a cut that's going to be the back of the angled plank and a cut that'll be the front of the angled plank. So for one of those cuts, you use the bottom of the paddle on the 1-to-1, so it would be I messed up my selection box. Surprise! I never do that. This is where you guys are supposed to laugh at me.
Noob?
You just call me a noob.
The
Thank you,
silence is deafening.
It is. It's driving me nuts. Okay, so from the bottom of the paddle to the bottom of the paddle in a 1x1 is 14 voxels. That's just the way I have it set up. You can have it be whatever distance you want as long as it's 14 in both directions. And so that's what I'm using as the bottom cut for the planks. For the top cut, I've been using from the bottom of the blue line on the top paddle to the bottom of the blue line on the bottom paddle. So it ends up being 16 by 16. I am calling it a paddle. I don't know why I'm calling it that, but that's what I'm calling it. So then for the two...
Paddling on the mind.
Apparently. For the 2x1, I'm going to stretch this out so that it comes to the bottom of the purple line there and the bottom of the purple line here. So in this case, again, we would line it up with the bottom of the block. I'm not going to call it a paddle now. The bottom of the 2 block and the bottom of the 1 block. But the outside cut would be at the top of, or the bottom of the purple line and the bottom of the purple line in this case. So here we have 17 voxels and, hey look, I lied. This should be the top of the purple line. This is why I always double check. 17 voxels across and 34 tall. So then for the next piece, come up to the bottom of this purple line and the top of that purple line on the 3x3. So, oops. Yeah, that's right. So 18 and 36. That's not right. Why is my math wrong? Alright, so I'm going to revise my tutorial and we're going to do a 2x1 because I know that line's in the right place. And I will make a set of 3x1 to put in my collection later. So what I'm going to do is, actually there's 2 steps that we do here. So I'm going to take this 3 off just to avoid confusion at this point. The first thing I do before I cut things is I'm going to use the cutting tool that I made, which is not going to be on the right angle for the 2x1, but it's an example of how it will work, to cut into this block of wood. And that'll give us the gap between the boards. And I'm going to start toward the bottom. And you don't necessarily need to make this come all the way through front and back, but you do want to make sure that you're using the tool to cut through the section where the line tool will go. So in this case, our line tool is going to come from the purple line here to the purple line there, and then also from the bottom of the paddle to the bottom of that paddle. Yes, I did go back to calling it a paddle. So I'm going to just use delete mode and tweak mode to move this around and make a few cuts in here. And when you're doing this, you need to make sure that you're not cutting too narrow, because if you cut too narrow, you delete too many voxels. You just need to adjust it a little bit if you get that, and repeat the cut and it'll come out just fine. Oops, apparently I didn't actually click the check mark that time. That's better. So I'm going to move this forward and backward while I'm doing this, and also mirror it side to side and do the flip sort of mirror that I did before. Yeah, Zach, I probably should call it a guide, shouldn't I? And then also I'm going to do these cuts at various distances. So these are about 2 tall. Bring this down one more. That's about the same size. I'm actually going to bring this up one more. So I have a fatter board. You can, when you're done, you can move these around and mix and match all you want. So that time I did the mirroring in both vertically and on the green axis and on the blue axis, so that it basically flipped the thing over so that I'm getting different wrinkles on these cuts now. And this time I'm going to slide it back a little bit. And fail to hit the check mark properly. That's better. That's probably too close. Hey, that's not too close. That one's fairly thin. And I'm going to mirror on the red axis this time and just keep moving this up. Actually, I'm going to make this last cut a little bit thicker. Okay, so now I have lines cut through my block of wood that go the entire distance from the top to the bottom, or most of the distance from the top to the bottom, but through the entire area where I'm going to be cutting with my line tool. So now I'm going to make a really big line tool. I just put this piece out here to place the line tool on. It makes it easier for placing and adjusting. And I'm going to line it up with, let's see, we're doing 2 to 1, so I want top of the purple. Yeah, I think that's right. Ah, I just remembered what I did wrong. I just remembered why my math is bad. Yay! And here, okay, I'm going to measure again to make sure I'm doing this right because I don't remember for sure. So, 18 in that direction. I know it said 19, but it's actually 18 because I'm selecting a voxel that won't be part of the selection. Okay, it's this one. 18, 17, 34. Okay, so top of this purple line on the 2 to the top of the blue line here. And I should probably make myself 3 different guides for this so that it's less confusing to myself next time. Okay, so like I was saying earlier with the line tool, it works best if you make sure that it's green on at least one axis. And then I'm going to bring it up to line up with the top of the purple line. That is what I said, isn't it? I think, yes. And then I'm going to toggle delete mode and delete.
I don't know, I wasn't paying attention.
I know, you never do.
Okay.
I can't remember. I can't remember.
Yeah, me either. That's okay, it's good enough. So now I have the first cut done, and I'm going to move right into doing the second cut, which will be lined up with the bottom of that guide. And I'm going to move this over so that it gets the entire block of wood. And then I'm going to do the same thing up here. And in this case, again, I'm going to line it up at the bottom of the guide. I know from when I did this before that the bottom of the guide is lined up properly. And I'm pretty sure that's what I did wrong with the number 3 selection. So now, where I cut, what is actually inside of the green line tool is what's going to be what we're going to use as our boards. So I'm going to toggle delete mode and delete that. Then I'm going to get my selection tool out, copy this big block of wood, undo that last cut that I did. Oops, not Control X, Control Z after recopying, and I'm going to align this block of wood that I copied back up with what's there, so you can see that.
Hey, Sigra.
Oh no, I messed up my copy. Okay, copy there. Okay, this is aligned right. Okay, so my selection is almost lined up right. There we go. So my paste volume is now lined up with the second cut piece that I did. So I'm going to undo again so that I have the piece that was after the first cut with the second cut not completed yet. And then I will toggle delete mode and delete. So now we're left with these boards that have the gap between them almost on the correct angle for the angle of the board. If I were to flip these over to look at them as they would be in a roof, which is what I'm doing this for. Actually, I don't even need to flip them over. I just need to pull them out so that I can look at it from the underside. You can see that you can see through those fairly well. And if they were at the actually correct angle, you'd be able to see through them even better. Now, these aren't, the gap between these isn't quite as good as what I have on some of my others because I wasn't able to determine how to make this fatter without a lot of work. I was able to do it a little bit easier for the other angles. But that's the basic